So last time we kind of concluded on, how I went from, my bachelor's to Intel, how I got my job after internship. And we'll kind of, draw the timeline in a bit. But then we start off with me being at Intel now in 2016, and we go forward from there to 2023. Right, what all happened in between that and all the crazy and fun stuff. Okay, so again, to remind our audience, these are like all the companies that collectively we all have interviewed at, and I have personally interviewed at these many, all the ones that are colored and ticked, and the ones that I have like a check mark, I got an offer from them, and the ones that have this cross, I did not get an offer from them. Right. Again, now I might not recall all the details here and there, but let's see. All
Yeah.
right. So let's just do a quick recap. So 2013, I pass out. Okay. 2013, I pass out as bachelor's of engineering in electrical engineering. Then 2013 December, I quit KC, right? And then somewhere from uh, July through December, I was employed there. After that, I am,
KC was purely electrical.
yes,
Uh,
pure electrical, uh, s- um, yeah, shop floor kind
hmm,
of job. So December I quit,
hmm.
and also not here, but here, right? June through,
Yeah.
this is where I'm at,
Hmm,
and at this point I'm like at home.
hmm.
Then
Preparing for gate.
yes, 2014, I joined uh, Masters MSc
Hmm,
Tech in Manipal University. 2015 Jan, I get an internship at Intel with the
hmm,
GNSS group,
hmm,
right? And then 2016, I am at the Bluetooth
hmm.
uh, team, right? I'm working with them. Now, from here, we'll kind of move on.
Right.
So, 2016, I'm working with the Bluetooth team. I'm part of the host software
Hmm.
team, right? Working under Kostov. So, this is kind of,
Cost
Kostov.
of.
We call him KDB. And then there is
Yeah.
little me.
So football fans among
Right.
us would
Oh, wait.
recognize
Yes.
KDB is a football
Right.
player of
Right.
Manchester City.
And
But
then there
anyway,
is like, football. Okay.
football.
So I'm working with KDB, and I continue to work with him for about, 2017 mid, right? So 2017 is here. This is
Hmm.
mid, let's say. So 1.5 year, I'm developing software. So the first 6 months, I was involved in writing, some A2DP stack
Hmm.
for 𝗁𝗵𝗽𝗀,
Zephyr.
I guess, Zephyr,
Hmm.
right? So I was working under Arun, right? And
Hmm.
Arun took me under his wing, kind of, and I was a scared kid. I was like, accidentally, I've got this job. I must prove myself. But then the thing is, to prove yourself, what do you do? All these keywords are strange. I'm not understanding anything. And we had the cubicle systems.
Hmm.
So, I'm seated in my cube, and I have no idea how to do things, right? So,
It more
what
feels
happened?
like you're drowning in something.
Yeah, also drowning in self esteem.
Hmm.
Or rather, this is my self esteem that was drowning. Right.
Yeah.
But people were like very, very fun and very nice, very polite. And I suppose because of that, I could open up as a person and
Hmm.
talk to them, be vulnerable and learn from them.
Hmm.
So A to DP went on from kind of June-ish to
Hmm.
December, after which they decided that, okay, the six of us who were working on the
Hmm.
open source project, they want to kind of, reconfigure us or reallocate us.
Was this the stack which went into Linux? Was
No,
this
not
no
Linux.
this?
This was going in Zephyr. So they needed like the audio
Okay.
profile
Hmm.
support in Zephyr back then. I have two patches on this on GitHub somewhere.
Hmm.
with my @intel.com
ID.
ID.
Yeah.
And they are just like the initial patches. It's like setting up a header file,
Hmm.
setting up the source file, done.
But the name stays forever.
The name stays forever,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Yes.
there. I have contribution in open source,
Hmm.
right? So okay, 6 months I do this, and after that I move to the UEFI
Hmm.
project. Right. So in the UEFI project, the
Hmm.
intention was that when in the BIOS environment,
Hmm.
we had to enable the connectivity of
Right.
Yes.
mouse and
Mouse and
keyboard,
key. Hmm.
right? So if you're using like an Intel machine
Hmm.
with the BIOS environment allowing for the Bluetooth and mouse connectivity, most likely my code is there,
Hmm.
right? And I enjoyed writing that code. And
So
while yeah,
we know if something breaks
I
when to
in fact
catch.
I know what all
Hmm.
can break.
Hmm.
Right, so I know
Okay.
limitations of there are few things which was hard to do in that driver,
Hmm.
and that maybe somebody else fixed or maybe nobody understands and then they didn't fix it
Hmm.
out. Okay, anyways, so I was working with Costo.
Right.
Costo was now like officially my mentor.
Hmm.
And so for another 1 year or so I work with Costo and
Hmm.
get this tag done.
Right.
Now, it will be very interesting to note that the work, or rather, it's an important data point. The work I did for the keyboard driver
Hmm.
helped me with my Google interviews. Right.
Hmm.
So karma came back essentially, or good deeds came back.
Right.
All right. So what I do now is 1.5, like about January or February of 2017, when I'm working on this
Hmm.
stuff. Well, actually, 20
18.
Uh, no, 2017, maybe around mid or around August. I was 1 year, 1 month into the job. So
Hmm.
maybe, around August.
Hmm.
What I do is I walk into ARM. And I walk into ARM as in, I saw an like position for a fresher. I just applied. They got back.
Arm Bangalore.
I'm Bangalore,
Hmm.
yes, right. And this office was so right behind Intel's office back then. So Intel office is here, nice
Okay.
big campus, and then ARM was here.
Hmm.
So one fine Friday, I just walk out, walk all the way here and attend the interview.
People go to a nice restaurant or something. These
Yeah, so
guys
I
just
literally 11 o'clock in
yeah.
the morning say ki, hey, I have to go now. I
Hmm.
will come back 4 o'clock in the
Okay.
evening. Okay, see you guys. Bye.
Hmm.
Maybe 10 o'clock ish. So I walk all the way here and I'm scared
Right. Piyush,
because, yeah,
before you proceed
yeah.
ahead, I wanted to know what was the thought process in your head back then.
All
Why
right.
did
So,
you go there?
okay. So one of the things that we have to realize is I was kind of feeling that I'm an imposter.
Still, after a year or so in your job.
Yes. In fact, I
Today.
think today too,
Hmm.
I feel it, but the intensity is much
Hmm.
less.
Hmm.
Given that I see, others are looking for job, then it kind of reassures
Right. Hmm.
that maybe there is some delta. But I was feeling that I accidentally
Hmm.
got in because
Hmm.
I was the one who was struggling until the last
Hmm.
10 days of my internship.
Hmm. Hmm.
So now what I wanted to do was deliberately go out there
Hmm.
and check myself and
Hmm.
essentially
Hmm.
validate
Validate.
how
Hmm.
good of an engineer I am, like actually,
Hmm.
right? And I knew that I have nothing to lose,
Hmm.
so I took a chance. But I
Right.
was shit scared.
Hmm. Hmm.
I had no idea like what kind of questions they'll ask, this and that. And around this time, one good thing had happened, which was I was like looking on YouTube. I was trying to learn the ARM M class of
Hmm.
CPUs, thankfully. And the reason to this is I had some exposure to the name ARM back in my college. So
Hmm.
back in college, as in while I was doing the MSc Tech,
Hmm.
there was 8051 that they taught us, but
Hmm.
towards the
Hmm.
end of that they had like an introduction to ARM,
Hmm.
right? So
70 DB.
yes, V7 TDMI.
Hmm.
I
Was it the LPC
Yes,
17?
yes. So LPC 1739, I suppose, or 69, one of them.
Yes.
I don't, maybe 1769, I think. Anyway, so I was introduced to this. And what I had done was, after getting a job at Intel, the first thing I did was order that board. It
Hmm.
costed me about 2K or something. and I ordered that board, and I wanted to do something with it. You have to realize this, that Intel was a big break for me, and I was like, I can wipe out all my past karma by now diligently studying and learning about things. Right. Again, I had no idea how I was going to contribute at work and be useful there. C was the only thing that I knew. Right. And yeah, so I pretty much bought that board and I was doing something.
Right.
This must be like, 3 to 6 months into my job, I gathered
Hmm.
to be able to buy. Or I think I had bought one during my internship also. Sorry, yeah, this was during my internship, and the
Hmm.
same board is like with me now. So 1.5 year of this board with being with me, and I have not done like significant work on this because never got the
Hmm.
chance, didn't know how to orient myself, all of that. Okay, I have to mention one other thing, which is between the A to DP time. We'll come to the ARM interviews in a while, and the UEFI time. When we were working on the A to DP
So this
stack,
was A2DP was your first
first,
project,
yes,
and UEFI was
the
when
second
you
one,
moved under Costa.
yes. So this is me working with Arun.
Hmm.
This is me working with Costa.
Costa.
Right? So what had happened here somewhere was we were using the Intel Edison board.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this was like the IoT board, and we were
Hmm.
trying
Hmm.
out things on that. And turned out that the Bluetooth solution that we wanted to connect with was an internal chip,
Hmm.
and it was a UART interface.
All right.
Right, and somebody had to kind of try stitching that together, and somebody in Israel had kind of already tried it. We just had to kind of get the patches compiled and this and that. Turned out nobody knew enough hardware to be able to attempt that.
So
Or
basically
that did,
porting of the UART driver.
yeah,
Would
so
that be correct?
some patch needed to be
Hmm.
applied to Zephyr.
Right. Okay.
uh,
Hmm.
okay, whatever spelling.
Hmm.
So Zephyr, and try, they just
Hmm.
had to
Hmm.
try out whether the
On
communication is
Edison board.
happening.
Hmm.
Yeah. So turned out this became a very big activity,
Hmm. Hmm.
and noticing that there is UART and wires involved,
Hmm.
and you will see how this kind of reinforces one of the key traits I have today, because I saw a gap and I leveraged, and I'm still leveraging it to this day.
Hmm.
What I noticed was the software engineers are scared of wires.
Hmm.
Okay, and I wasn't as much. I was like, hey, these are like just 3 wires: ground, TX, RX, and 4 wires, and
Hmm.
power supply. You just got to hook, deploy the image, and
Hmm.
see what happens. But somehow everybody was backing off, and I just took it, saying,
Hmm.
"Ki, okay, I'll try this out." Took me a week. There was like oscilloscope involved, there was, logic analyzer involved essentially, and I noted that the what do you say, there is kind of the UART communication is working. Let's put it that way.
All right.
1 week later, and everybody were happy with me. They
Hmm.
were like, hey, this guy knows something. And what I
Hmm.
noticed was I was able to bring some value to table
Hmm.
by something that I learned in the past.
Hmm.
And not that I had learned UART, it was just my familiarity with wires and me signing up to take on that
Hmm.
uncertain thing.
Essentially,
People,
you were not that scared of wires as
yes.
others.
Also, I understood if nobody else wants to do it, anything I do is
Hmm.
contribution, right? So that's how I went into it.
Hmm. I see.
That
I think that is a good learning. That
yes, and I think that one trait has earned me a lot of credits.
volunteer to do some,
Yes, yes,
well, I should say uneasy tasks where
correct.
people
Or
are not
rather,
doing.
just being
Hmm.
comfortable with little bit of ambiguity.
Hmm.
Just being okay with that got me a long way.
Hmm.
And so what happened now was I was favored by all
Hmm.
my seniors, saying, this guy knows something.
Hmm.
But in the meantime, I'm still feeling as an imposter because I know that I do not know as much. Right?
Hmm.
So now I'm starting to work on UEFI. I have good credits
Hmm.
in my name. So people trust me. If I say that I do not know something, they're like,
Hmm.
no, no, wait. If I teach you, you'll know it. So they're trusting me like that, right? My seniors are willing to consider and teach me. Like, okay. So 1 year goes by. I walk into ARM for my interviews, and I go through like 3 or 4 interviews.
Hmm.
So one key thing to take away is, I have learned that you can stand between hardware and software and people will value you. That is one thing. And we'll see something else comes out of this interview, the ARM interview, that I have recursively used also. And maybe, the audience members can also consider that. What had happened was before interviewing at ARM for like a long time, I was trying to see how schedulers work.
All right.
Right? This was one. And in the previous video, I mentioned that during my internship, I used to hide away in the lab and work on FPGA, try and learn about them. So I had kind of learned FPGAs a little bit and ordered the ICE40 stick, which was lattice semiconductor, FPGA, open source tool chain, this, that. And I had managed to do a UART on this. And that UART I did because I understood the UART from here. So I knew ki, theek hai, I understand this protocol. I managed to do a RX and TX, and this is available on my GitHub also.
This
with this
was your Verilog hardware HDL code?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is in
So
Verilog.
essentially, you designed a UART IP, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I designed a UART IP, and what it would do is any character I send it, it would send it back. So echo
Loop,
essentially. That's
loop
all.
back.
Loop back. Yeah. Okay. And it would not loop back like all characters as is. Sometimes there would be error if I type too fast, this, that, timing errors, whatever. So you'll notice that this and this work.
Now, how did you connect your keyboard here through the IC stick? It was USB to convert.
Yes. So what was happening is I exposed two wires or two pins of the FPGA as TX and RX.
Okay.
And then FTDI cable.
Oh, okay.
To the USB to the machine.
Got it.
Right. Okay. So I have this too.
So it was a USB to TTL converter, right?
USB to TTL. So the FTDI.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So notice that there was scheduler involved here. There was this involved here. And during my internship, I had spent a lot of time trying. Go ahead.
Will it be TTL?
I have no idea. It was whatever logic.
Because for my Raspberry Pi, I am using USB to TTL in bare metal UART.
So when we talk about, right, so these TTL etc. are the voltage levels, right?
25 volts is TTL, I think, or
no,
15.
3.3.
That's where I'm a bit shaky and confused. So whether it is the 3.3 volt one or the other one.
Most likely the 3.31, whatever FTDI supports.
Yeah, I guess transistor logic, it should be 3.3 volt.
3.3, yeah.
5 volt should not be around.
Which is the other
And
logic?
the other one is RTL, which is register.
Okay.
Resistor transfer level.
Resistor. That is different, right? That is.
Wait, hang on. I think we are.
Yeah, we are basically yes. It's a USB to UART converter. Let's say it's a USB
stick with
to
that.
UART.
Yes. So that happened. Right. Okay. So
I should have it, lying around somewhere.
Sure. We can pull that out.
Yeah.
Okay. You can still hear me, Mohammed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on.
It looks something like this.
Wait. Let me put you on the main screen.
Man, we are completely diverging. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But why can't I put you on main screen? I can't put you on main screen.
No problem.
Anyways.
I think this is fine. So this is what this would plug in, into, let's say, your USB port, and this is what it exposes, 4 wires, which can be put into the.
Can you explain that again once again, please?
So this is the USB to TTL converter.
Yes.
This is the USB port which plugs in, and these are the 4 wires essentially which come out, and you can put it in any pin.
Exactly. So instead of the Raspberry Pi,
you had the ICE.
Yes, lattice
semiconductor. TTL is up to 5 volt. RTL is what goes beyond 5 volt. Resistor transistor logic.
But RTL is like the outcome of the Verilog.
These are two different definitions. That RTL is register transfer logic. This is register transistor level.
Okay. Understood. Okay. Fair.
Not register, resistor.
Understood. The Ohm's law resistance.
Resistor.
Okay. Fair. So we are talking about my interview at ARM still. I walk in and these two are like important things.
No, Piyush, you were saying you worked on UART, which sort of helped you in your interview.
So when I worked on the UART protocol here, I understood it enough to attempt writing an RTL or Verilog based UART on my own.
Okay.
Right. And I was just doing it to understand how hardware design works, and I had that in my masters also,
Got it.
little bit, right? That's what gave me a little bit of courage. Now I'll give some more data points to our audience, which is I have built my career around C operating system, FPGA. Oh, okay, FPGA, or DSP, and tools. Right. So what I have done is, as you'll see across this story, I've been round robining through all these, and they have paid off like leaps and bounds. Right. As we shall see. Okay, so then I walk in for an interview, and I also happen to have a blog, by the way. The person that I am, so I
Oh yeah,
also
I
have
have seen that. Yeah.
blog. So
It
I walk.
still is on, right?
Yeah,
Still
it
is on.
still is on. Yeah. So in my first interview questions about memory management, malloc, how will you allocate memory, deallocate memory, those kind of stuff, pretty basic C stuff, and I suppose that kind of is enough for entry level jobs. But somewhere he asked me, hey, do you know how two jobs can be, or two tasks can be run at once? And this was just amazing, that question itself, because what it did for me was, I was like, yes, I can reason about it. And can I reason based on the M class microcontrollers? And he was like, yeah, sure, okay, if you know M class microcontrollers. Now you have to note this, that by calling out M class microcontroller, I gave out a hint that I happen to know something about it, which is way better than not knowing anything about it. Right. So that was one
Right.
green tick, and as you will see, I got later banned
Plus,
from
I think one thing to add here is you somewhere, you and the interviewer kind of arrived at the same level of assumptions. That,
yes,
hey,
yes,
it's like single core. There
yeah,
will be
yeah,
some systic timer involved, and I will
correct,
do
correct, correct.
uh, what
So
happened.
this person let me assume that,
Assume that.
and I think he gave me some points for
Hmm.
knowing the M class, the name itself, and reasoning about it. Then I go ahead and explain essentially this scheduler that I had implemented. And when we say this scheduler, right, it was a pretty basic thing, like two functions, just context switch between them, the CPU. And I should mention Professor Volvano, some name, Professor Volvano, and this Quantum Leap channel, 𝗵𝗽𝗀𝗻𝗃, right? So I was following them, and I was trying to understand, how it works. So like pretty much learned and implemented a tutorial, and now I had some idea. So I
Maybe
reasoned based
link
on that.
those in the description.
Yes, right. So I'm, also then talking about the scheduler, and the person was delighted. And that was the first time when I had answered like a complicated, twisted question, and not screwed up. And also the person was delighted, and it was a lunch interview, so he was having lunch and I was drawing diagrams okay, on the board. The takeaway here is, once he asked me a question that seemed familiar, I was able to steer my interview by talking about this and talking about this. I would say, hey, can I speak a little more about how interrupts work? And he's like, yeah, go ahead, please. So he asked me very little question, like very few questions, and I gave him more data points. So if you
Were the
sense,
driver then, basically.
yes, and you will
You're
notice that
feeding
this,
in the keywords which you were confident about.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So
Good tip.
once I sensed what their end intention was, which is to check me on C a little bit and quiz me about some OS lower level stuff. The moment I gave him enough data on my own, he was fine. So we had a good chat, and that was that. In the next interview, what happened was, again, that person tried to probe me on C, little bit, string manipulation, stack manipulation, something like that. Where does this variable go, that variable go, those kind of things. And after that, he somewhere tried to probe me accidentally. Again, somewhere in the conversation, something related to hardware showed up. Right, hardware. I must have said something that the hardware acts this way, and then something happened. I plugged in saying, hey, oh, by the way, I also tried a UART and hardware. And now all of a sudden their bag of questions is out. And he's like, okay, tell me more about that. And I was like, okay, I implemented in Verilog something like this. And so he got curious and asked me, okay, how did you handle the timing, this, that. Then I mentioned, okay, roughly I'm sampling 5 times, for within this much
Clock
duration.
divider.
Huh. And this person is then saying, "Ki, okay, you can sample on the edge also," and then I'm admitting that my solution doesn't account for it, right? And he is okay with that. So doing anything half is also okay, right? It's just that it should give away signals that you're interested, you're trying it. So he also appreciated me. And the third interviewer,
Man, so the crazy thing is the interview from C turned all the way to very
to
long
hardware, yeah.
because you just inserted that keyword.
Yes.
That,
So I think this is why personal projects, I understood, are accidentally important. Right. This came to me as an accident, and I figured that okay, nice. I survived 2 interviews. Right. And then okay, moving on. The third interviewer is asking me puzzles. Right.
okay.
Just random puzzles. How many, like there is a grid. How many squares can you form? How many triangles can you form? Whatever. Right. I'm slightly screwing this up. Okay. But this person again accidentally, based on my resume on which I had put my personal blog, has read one of my stories.
Oh, nice. They even went to that extent that opened the
I mean,
blog.
yeah, my resume only had like what, half page worth of stuff, so it's like easy to read through. And the first thing was my name, and then followed by that the URL to
Link.
the website. Yeah. So he reads that and he's like, "Oh, by the way, I read one of your blogs. Nice, nice, good writing." What I figured was your resume is also one of the ways in which you can bias the interviewers. Right. Looking back now, I mean, if on your resume you put some interesting stuff, they will come into the interview biased. And I suppose that is what happened here.
Yeah.
Okay. My fourth interview was around, I was given a C code and asked to convert it into assembly.
Oh, which assembly
This
arm?
just random assembly. He was like, okay, you can assume, some instructions, XYZ.
Oh, kind of like pseudo assembly. Okay.
So can you pseudo assembly? Yes. Can you convert it? Again, to my luck, my thesis happened to be around like just working on
Okay.
𝗁𝗵𝗶𝗀 with the trying to compile the source code. And so I had seen how if conditions, while loops,
I see.
all of that convert to assembly, like
Assembly.
roughly, right? So I'm able to reason through, and that goes okay. In the sense, I screw up some place, but the interviewer helps me, all of that. So Rajat, do you have a question? I see your hand up. No, okay. You're just listening. So this happened, and fine. That person is
Right.
also happy. The next interview is
Excuse me.
around.
So there were like
Yeah,
4 interviews have already happened. So how many were
this is
there?
the fifth.
Fifth. Okay.
So I walked in like 10:30 ish, and this must be around like 4:30 ish. That
Okay.
things are around that point. 4 o'clock maybe. Each interview was like half an hour,
Half.
right? 20 minutes to half an hour. Okay, so this person gives me a few instructions, and then they ask me that, okay, given this type of memory access, which order will the instructions happen in? I am point blank. I completely screwed up this interview. Here and there, nudges, pushes, whatever. And this person was like an architect, right? So I am sweating already. But he kind of understood that maybe, I'm not for his team. Right? All right, this goes through. The manager comes like 2 days later. Okay, by the 4:30 time, I have gone back. My self-esteem is really improved
High.
at this point. Yeah, it's really high. Uh, I have freed myself from the fact that I'm a useless engineer. Right? It's more like, yeah, I'm not in Intel by accident. There was
Okay.
something
And
to
Piyush, I
me.
have to ask you this. Did it stay, did the same thought stay for you? Stay with you? Like, in the sense, was it temporary, the boost you got in self-esteem?
Well, the boost was not like I can rule the world, kind of, obviously, right? But it was more like I can
The im-
reason about systems. That's all.
okay. The
That's all. I'm still a
imposter syndrome sort of went away.
not went away. It
And
still is there, but I was now
reduced.
like on a clean slate. I have managed to convince somebody to give me a job
I
in an
see.
open market, and that's what kind of mattered to me. And as you will see, I kind of reinforced this by just randomly attending more interviews.
Yeah.
And that played off later, right? So arm comes back, offers me the position, but their pay is like slightly more than my current pay. Also, I like my team at Intel too much, and it's cozy there, so I decide to ditch this. I dish this. Well, I did a very bad job at reasoning about why I don't want to join, because they really were excited. Uh, I was cheap hire. Let me put it that. Looking back, right? So I decided to ditch them, and my pitch for ditching them was, "Hey, the sign-on bonus that you're giving me is not tax protected." And they're like, "Dude, it's never tax protected." And I'm like, "No, no, it has to be tax protected." They're like, "Okay, bye." Here's the funny thing: a year later, I applied. They rejected my application. And still, funny thing is, 5 years from there, I had an offer for Cambridge, right? So long story short, if you bomb an interview or misbehave, yes, they can ban you. But I was not as insane to get banned for life, so yeah, arm
So
does reconsider. Nice company.
I guess
Yeah, go
there
ahead.
are multiple points that I would like to take from this. Okay,
Sure.
what if you notice something in all your interviews, you make sure you communicate with the interviewer a lot,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that's a very important point that a lot of I whenever I interview, I miss in a lot of people like they just assume that maybe if I ask this question, the interviewer will feel I am stupid and
Yes.
would consider that okay. So sometimes they don't even ask certain questions and they don't communicate with the interviewers a lot.
Yeah.
So what happens is these are two parallel machines running. You have your own thought process running, and
Yeah.
interviewers, the only way for him to understand what you are understanding and what you want to communicate is a whiteboard. So
Yeah.
he is trying to perceive it from his own vision. Maybe this is what you want to tell me,
Hmm.
and this is where sometimes the communication gap happens. Maybe you are
Yes.
trying to tell him a different story, but he is
Yes.
perceiving it differently because you are not talking too much to the interviewer.
Yes. Yes. That is true. Happens with folks I interviewed in the past. Here's another data point. So what I tend to do and have done like consistently in past is, like, if I happen to know just, let's say, this much out of this much required, I will call out that, hey, I know this much for sure, based on some documentation or some data points from the internet. I remember this correctly. Then I say, okay, I'm able to predict this much, and this is all unknown to me.
Yeah.
And then if they give me a data point here, I try and bridge this. But then I say, okay, assuming XYZ was true, here's how my solution would go. And I suppose somewhere people like that also. So okay, this happened, dished arm.
So
Yeah.
I have a very funny question that my colleague used to ask, and specifically around it. So he will, and he's a US colleague. So
Okay.
his favorite question was whenever he used to get a candidate, his favorite question was, "I want to blink an LED, but LED is not blinking.
Okay.
How do you debug that?
I'm just okay, debug that. Okay, okay, interesting,
How do
interesting.
you how can you tell me what is wrong with the?" And then and he asked me that question as well. We were having a dinner and he asked me, "Okay, you tell me how will you do that?" And I
Okay.
giving him multiple answers. I'm like, I will look at the code, I will start into debug, I will look into the data sheet,
I'll
make sure
change
I'm
the
right.
Wait, wait, yes, yes.
LED.
I was going to say that. Start by
Everything,
changing the.
everything. I'm explaining everything, and he said, "You know what? The first thing I will check is take a multimeter and see if LED is even
Yeah.
connected to the."
Yes, go back. Yeah, go backwards. Yes, true,
I'm
true.
like, you know what? You have a right point. I even in real life, if this was happening to me, I would have done the same thing, taken a multimeter. But just because it was an interview, I why did
Yeah.
I assume that you might be asking me something really complex?
Exactly. Yes, yes.
Even you should
Oftentimes,
you should note this down. One point was, communicate well.
Yeah.
I mean,
where do
just
we write that?
uh, maybe
Um,
some, yeah.
Somewhere there was like hardware, software. Me working on
Hmm.
M and FPGA.
FPGA.
Then there was a blog involved somewhere.
Yeah.
What else?
Communication.
Communication.
good communication, and I think feeding the interviewer with
Steering, yes.
steering.
Is it this? STEA
Yeah,
or
yeah, you're right.
Steering. It's
and
fine.
Steering.
okay, okay, okay. Steering. Okay, the other steer is the steer.
Hmm.
So
Uh, mhm.
okay,
Go ahead.
maybe you can delete this and cut this one part off. I would say if you want to stop, this is a very good point to stop and sell a podcast saying how to boost the from entry to becoming a confident engineer.
Sure, sure. We can do that. We can do that.
This can be
Okay.
a complete podcast with a good ending because this has a very good ending and a
Hmm.
Sure.
very definite ending.
Yes. So we can do that. Let me take 2 minutes to
Yeah.
say what happened after me staying at Intel,
Yes.
and I went to Qualcomm for my next interview, and that's for another time. Okay.
Yes.
Oh man,
Okay.
man,
Perfect.
we were planning to complete your
Not
journey till
happening.
Google, right?
Not happening.
तो मैंने वही रियलाइज किया अगर हम गूगल तक पहुंचते पहुंचते ये इस महीने का
5 घंटे.
रिकॉर्डिंग प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीट हो जाएगा वैसे तो
But
एंडी तो यही हमें किक आउट
it,
मार देगा
yeah, it's crazy that you remember all these details, man. Very nice.
Because I was a scared kid. I was taking notes as to what works and what
What
doesn't.
works?
yeah
And I think me
It's
as
like
a
it's
person,
like, man, I have to give this analogy, and I have wondered this a lot. Like, the fact that we have so many ingredients in cooking, right?
oh,
And it's because there are so many people who have just sacrificed their life in trying different things. Some guy somewhere, uh, mix datura in their sabzi. It's
yeah,
like, hey, dekhta hu, and mar
yeah,
gaya. Just
and
died.
idea, yeah,
And that's where the
yeah,
relatives realize, okay, no datura, that's
yeah.
poison.
This
And this,
combination doesn't work. Yeah, they did not try things on rats and
yeah,
whatever. They
maybe not, right?
yeah,
yeah
And
wow,
but this is essentially what you are doing as well. You
yeah,
tried on hands, hey, let me go to arm, see what
yes,
works, what
yes,
doesn't.
yes, yeah,
Then you sort of made a mental note of it, that okay,
yeah,
I need to work on this, or keep this up, stuff like that.
yeah,
And this is what, guys, we are actually sharing here. But,
yeah, yeah,
so I hope it works for all of you as
yeah.
well.
So I'll now tell you the funny part between having an offer to
Okay.
rejecting an offer. Okay, and maybe with that we'll just end.
Hmm.
So when I had the offer, I actually talked with my director straight. Okay,
Oh, you mean your Intel's
director,
director or
yes,
Intel's
Intel
director?
direct.
Okay.
So there was like director, Kostov and
JDB.
me,
Hmm.
right? And he was such a friendly person,
Yeah.
such a nice, welcoming person, easy to approach, that I actually had a chat with him.
Hmm.
And I had a chat with him here. Okay.
After
After
the
rejecting.
offer was
Yeah.
rejected. Yeah.
So I dished the offer,
Hmm.
and I'm like thinking, and then
Hmm.
I went and had a chat with him just over coffee, this, that.
Hmm.
And I told him, hey, such and such happened. By the way, letting you know, I already rejected the offer, so do not worry, kind of.
Throw coffee mug at me.
Yeah, but turned out he was a very
Hmm.
he
Yeah.
chill person. He understood how career development and all
Hmm.
of that works. He told me, hey, are you interested on working on ARM? And
Hmm.
actually let me talk to one of my friends at ARM.
Hmm.
Oh, actually, let me correct this story a little bit. I'm remembering it incorrectly.
Hmm.
I was talking to him here, and then
Hmm.
that I have rejected thing didn't happen here.
Didn't happen.
Okay. So I tell him, hey, such and such happened. I happened to just walk into blah blah blah, and turned out, they want me, kind of, or they're interested in me.
Hmm.
And he was like, having seen me do the UART story, he was also like, very much favoring me.
Hmm.
And by the way, this person used to play football with us, right? So he's like that chill person, very
Yeah.
nice person. 𝗖𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗍 is his name. So in case he's watching, hey
Yeah.
Salai.
I remember, one funny anecdote, it's a lie.
Go ahead.
So while playing football, someone, I don't remember who it was, but
Pushed him or
he
something.
pushed him and he
Yeah.
falls to the ground, and he's like, man, are you repaying back all the bugs I'm assigning?
Yeah, he was. He's like, are you deliberately targeting? He was fun. He was fun.
Yeah.
A very nice person. So, I tell him here this. Then he says, hey, actually, I have a friend who comes from ARM who is in another department in Intel. I'll maybe set you up, talk to him, how career at ARM is, blah, blah, blah. He tried to set me up, here and there. By that time, I had rejected it. Next time I met him, I was like, felt uncomfortable, not there yet, bye. Just let it go. Okay, we can mostly, pretty much conclude my ARM interview here. What happens after 6 more months is I walk into Qualcomm.
Just essay, random.
Yes, one fine Saturday, right, and get an offer from there, which really makes me think. Okay, but then I continue to work at Intel because of reasons, and we'll take that in another podcast. I think
Yeah.
this one's good. Hopefully, again, hopefully people kind of contemplate again and think over and see that you should be an active participant in your interviews, and always go in with the A/B testing mentality. Try out something new. If it works, it works. If not, it's okay. You don't get the job. That's all. And I was able to do all of this because I already had job at Intel, so I knew the price of screw up is not as much. All right, so I suppose with this we'll just stop, and long way to go until I land at Google.
Yeah.
So that's that. For those who stayed along this long, we originally had a plan of concluding journey to Google, but doesn't look like it will finish anytime soon. So we'll catch you up in the next video.
Next one.
Yeah.
Given the companies you have interviewed, I think we'll
It's a
probably
long
reach Google by next year.
Yes, very much.
And
very
man, we
much
have
possible.
still so much big list, right? It's even though Piyush has interviewed so many companies, it's like what 20%.
collectively,
It's huge, man.
yeah,
I,
it's huge. I think
you
it will
know,
be fun. It will be fun.
man, I imagine we'll be like 80 years old. I think
Still explain.
still by this.
This was my last interview, and then die. Wow.
Oh man.
Perfect.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you for staying around, folks.
Thank you, everyone.
Catch you next
Have a
time.
good one.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.